been a while. I've been devoting a lot of my time and energy to my second channel, which is my cooking channel. If you haven't seen that and you enjoy watching food, you can check that out. But that doesn't mean I'm giving up here. I still have a lot I want to accomplish on this channel. One of the struggles is finding someone else that I can use because I want to do a lot of self-defense videos, but it's impossible to do without somebody else. So I've been kind of stuck on that front. Hopefully I can find a solution soon. But in the meantime, I still do love coming here to chat, and I had an idea that I just wanted to discuss today. And that is the subject of loyalty and how it pertains to martial arts, of course, but also just generically in life. To me, loyalty is showing purposeful support for whatever reason it may be. But what separates just support from loyalty to me is the consistency with which you do it. So to me, loyalty is indefinite support, if that makes sense. Probably one of the most common analogies that is used to describe loyalty is how a dog is loyal to their owner. You can see how the dog kind of unconditionally stands by the side of their owner, no matter what happens. Talk about having loyal friends or being loyal to your spouse or to your employer, whatever it may be. But to me, martial arts exists in its own category of loyalty. So as martial artists, we typically emphasize the importance of discipline and respect to have towards one another. And usually the first instance of that is to your instructor that you have when you start taking classes, usually as a child. And of course that can also go for educational teachers in like the school system. But I still think, like I said, that martial arts exists in its own category because of how much we stress respecting, especially your elders, your parents, your teachers, whoever it may be. It's kind of like a military approach of submission and respect to whoever has authority over you, which makes sense because of the roots of martial arts. But the meat of the subject that I want to discuss is the loyalty to those masters or those higher ranked instructors that you have growing up or that you come across during your training. And I think this can kind of get touchy, so I don't want to be misconstrued. I think it's always important to have decency and respect towards anybody that you come across, no matter what. But to go deeper into that term loyalty, I think that has a heavier meaning. And I just think that there's this expectation that you have this unconditional obedience for whoever's training you with no questions asked, and that whatever they decide to do and wherever they decide to go, that you're just expected to follow them and change the way that they change, and so on and so forth. And that if they decide that they no longer like this person or they no longer like this organization, then you have to follow suit. And also there's some masters or grandmasters that will forbid their students from learning from anybody else if they want to continue learning with them. Like hypothetically speaking, I'm learning karate from this one master and I want to branch out and learn jiu-jitsu from this other school that I found. But my karate master is forbidding me from doing that if I want to continue learning from him. What I'm getting at is that I believe loyalty is a very important concept and I think we should have it, but I think we should hold loyalty to ideas and concepts higher than we hold loyalty to people and organizations. And the main reason for that is because people change and organizations change, but ideas and concepts do not. They are pure. And this might be a little cheesy, but it reminds me of this quote from The Dark Knight.
As a man, I'm flesh and blood. I can be ignored, I can be destroyed, but as a symbol, I can be incorruptible. I can be everlasting.
So I'm obviously not advocating being disrespectful, and I'm not bashing people that change their minds as they grow and branch out in different ways. But what I am saying is just because the person that you follow or the organization that you follow, just because they make changes or they decide something is different, it doesn't mean that you necessarily have to be on board with everything. I think you need to define your values and your morals separate from anybody else and what anybody else does. That way you have a standard for yourself, and then if something happens, you can always go back to that and measure your next decisions based on your morals and your values. Because unfortunately, the more you advance in martial arts and the higher up you get, and the more people you meet, it becomes more and more political, for lack of a better term. And the same can be said for business and the corporate world. The higher up that you get, the more things get political. But it's just if you start martial arts as a child, and you don't really know the organization, you're just doing something as an activity and you grow. You don't really know the background or the ins and outs of the organization that you're becoming a part of. And it can be many years training in that before you do realize those kinds of things. And at that point, you'll have many years invested, so you'll probably be more likely to stick around through things that you might not agree with or you might not see eye to eye with. But that's also part of being an adult, is having differences with other people that you have to work with and figuring out ways to work through them and agreeing to disagree sometimes. Now again, there's some deal breakers and some absolutes that will take you back to your book of morals, like I said, that you just can't look the other way from, and you have to figure out, what to do next. But it is important to be true to yourself first and foremost, and I think sometimes we can get lost because we're just trying to live up to the expectations and the commands of whoever's there to advance us in rank. Now, none of this is based on anything specific. I've seen a lot of things in the years that I've practiced martial arts and from the people that I know in other organizations and things like that. But I honestly thought to make this video because I was watching the new Batman movie, and that took me back to that quote that I showed you earlier from The Dark Knight. I just think it's an important concept for all of us to remember, that sometimes we can get caught up in brainwashing, and sometimes we can get caught up in impressing people or just trying to be on somebody's side, that we forget that our unchanging values and morals should come before the changing society around us. What do you do in the situation that you just can't continue with something that has changed so much or has done something that you don't agree with, but that you've also invested a lot of time and energy and money into, that you don't just want to walk away from? That's a hard question to answer, and there is no one answer because every situation is different. But it wouldn't be the first time that somebody has changed allegiances and gone to some other school that they found and started to learn from them. Most established organizations understand these concepts, so when something like that happens, if somebody comes to them explaining what's going on, they'll usually understand. Now, what does that mean for your rank and the way you train and all these other things that go into this? I don't think those matter too much compared to you finding a situation that you enjoy and that you fit in better. All the rest of that will fall into place how it's supposed to. But I hope there was something of substance in there that you got out of this. I do have some more video ideas that I hope to get to moving forward, but like I said, I'm working on having another person to help me do that. In the meantime, I'd love to know how you're doing. If you have any thoughts to add to this conversation, the comment section is always open. But as always, thank you guys for watching, and keep training.